We're going to start with a visual. I want you to put an image in your mind of your classroom full of kids or your kids at home. And what does that look like and sound like and feel like? And let's amp it up. It's right after lunch and they've just come into the room. What are your immediate thoughts and reactions to that type of energy? Typically, the first word that comes to mind is chaos, right? After lunch can be quite the moment. But now I want you to imagine your students coming in from lunch, and instead of chaos, it's focused energy. So think of it that way. How can I set up a situation where we can get that energy focused? And as you walk into the classroom, you have one student who has immediately, without being told, gone and grabbed all the journals. They're starting to hand them out, put them on everybody's desk. You have another student who's taken their spiral notebook or the binder that you've made for them that has some scripts in there, and they are confidently walking up to the front of the room to get ready to start the class on the writing warm-up for workshop. Again, you haven't said a word to them. You're just welcoming kids into the classroom. And then you have another student who's already in there prepping the room, helping to make sure that the lighting is right, that the instrumental playlist is pulled up, that the timer is all ready to go. So you have these class leaders at the front of the line. They come into the room and they do all the work. So you're not in there scrambling for control of the classroom, and you're not pulling teeth, begging them to do the right thing, go walk in quietly, all that. It's just a well-oiled machine. And you're not even at the wheel of the machine. The students are at the wheel, and it's not a fantasy. This actually happens when you set up that workshop in a really, really strategic and structured way. Now, if you're new to the podcast, I'm Robin Mellum, and I'm a middle school ELA teacher, instructional coach, and I'm a children's book author. And today we're going to talk about how to build a student-led writing workshop that has like really solid classroom management, that it's structured, it's sustainable, and it's shockingly effective. And so the classroom management techniques I'm going to go through today will also work for all the other parts of your day, honestly. But truthfully, this idea of a student-led workshop, and I also use student-led in other parts of the classroom. So I have students who read through the agenda. They share out what the warm-up is. They do all the greeting of the class. So everybody kind of eventually has some sort of a job. But the idea of turning over, control of your classroom can feel kind of terrifying, because what if it does turn into chaos? What if you're just chasing people around trying to get them to do the right thing, or there's blank stares and you only have like a 40-minute block of time? But what you do is you shift, like if we just focus on the workshop, shift the ownership of it. So shift it more into, we are a team and I'm your coach, but you have captains and you have each other. So you're not managing every single minute, because you have some routines and the students are taking over, and they will learn this independence, and that independence, like they actually love it. When I stand at the door and just greet them, how was your lunch? How you doing? What'd you do? Oh, look at that. And then there's other kids in the classroom already taking over. There's something about that feels like really adult to them. They finally feel like we've been given some respect in a way. And it raises the expectations, and they secretly deep down love that. They do. So you are handing over the keys for this, but you are the one who is like the puppet master here, right? You are the one who is setting this all up for success. So I'm going to go over, like when I talk about classroom management, I'm going to talk about it in two different ways. One is proactive management and reactive management. And this first part here, I'm going to talk about the workshop in a proactive way. So when you launch it, here's what I would recommend. That at the beginning, I always tell everybody to go ahead and assign your leaders right away after they share their slides of like, what is this workshop about? Even though I will say you have to be a little bit like I always tell my friends, like, don't be a puppy, be a cat. Like, you kind of have to be cool about things, right? You need to know when to slowly dole all this out. You don't want to throw everything at them on day one because you're being a puppy. So instead, just kind of ease into it. Check this out. So I show the students slides and kind of give them an overview of the workshop, but then I say, but like you guys aren't ready for that. You're going to need to do an activity where we practice a certain skill, and once I'm satisfied that you guys are able to do this skill, then I know you're ready. And they're like, what skill, what are you talking about? And that's when we do the voice exercise, and that's the one that they absolutely love, and they all do really well with it. And then I can say, I'm so impressed, let's do this, let's get into the workshop, are you ready? Yes. And assign the leaders. There's one little side note I would make here because I've taught grades 4 through 8. So I would be a little bit different with 8th graders, maybe 7th graders, depending on what your situation is. But for my 8th graders, everything that everybody does ever is either cringy or not cringy. And so having student leaders where there's like this notebook and there's a script and you're welcoming everybody and blah, 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 it can feel like kind of goofy at first. And you don't want the 8th graders to be like, oh my God, this is so cringe. So I don't have them do the leadership jobs at the beginning. I do them until we've done 1 or 2 sessions. And then you can see their minds change. They're like, oh, I like this. This is fun. And by the time you see them going, that was fun, that's when you go, okay, you know what? I really need help with you guys taking this over. And I'd love for you guys to take some jobs. Can I give some jobs out? Sure. So do it that way. All right. My second suggestion for your workshop is to make sure that you have a routine that's built and it's predictable. So it's the same each time. The students know what to expect and they actually thrive in this, so that every once in a while, when you throw in a little change, if it's a slight change, they'll kind of love it. If it's a big, big change, they will throw an absolute fit. And that's actually kind of awesome too, because sometimes we have things that come up. We can't do our workshop today. We have this, we've got, meetings, whatever. It's teacher work day and they can't have the workshop that week and they absolutely melt down. And that will make you the happiest teacher in the world when your kids melt down for that reason. So you have this routine so that there's a warm up that the students lead. And I know I do warm ups just when we start our ELA class. And somebody asked me about this, and here's what happened. The ELA 3-a-day warm ups that we do every single day that are very important. We'll get into deep talks about that, why they're so helpful for every part of this writing program. But what we would do is we would start out the workshop day and we were doing the ELA 3-a-day and then moving into the workshop. Like everything was set up, the lights, the tables, all the stuff was ready to go. But we did the ELA 3-day and then the leaders came up and started the workshop. But I started to notice that the students were saying, can we skip that part and just do the warm up for the workshop? And that's a specific thing to the warm up they do. It's just like a 60-second thing that the kid comes up with to get them writing. And I decided to turn it back to them. Like I said, writing is always best when they have a choice in the matter. And I said to them, well, I don't know. What do you guys think? Should we do these 3-a-day on the same day we do workshop? What should we do? And they had a discussion, like a back and forth, pro con, let's talk about it. And they determined that they really actually wanted to extend the writing time during the writing portion, because you add more time as you go along, you build up to it. You don't start with a huge long block, you start with a short block and then have them vote on whether we add minutes to it. Again, more choice. The more say they can have in it, the better. So they chose to make the ELA 3-a-day warm-ups optional, and we would skip it, but kids could do it if they wanted to. And what was surprising was that a majority of them went back and did that warm-up. I gave them like an extra point if you did it. And they absolutely love those warm-ups, the ELA 3-day things. They just love them because there's quick writes in there. And it's just great for them to be able to have that decision making there. So anyway, you have a warm-up routine with your leaders, and that's consistent. And then you follow up with a mini lesson, and they time you for 7 minutes, which is super fun because everybody's kind of on the edge of their seats to see if we can fit it all in 7 minutes. And you have a timer, and then we move into independent writing time. They share in their trios. We do diamond, all the things, but the order stays the exact same every time. And within that, there's voice and choice. So there is, the students can choose things. They can choose their path. They can choose their skill. But there's so much routine in there, and they know exactly what this is going to be, that they just thrive on that. In a minute, I'll talk more about how to use classroom management techniques in the workshop when the students aren't doing what they should be doing. But this is all the proactive stuff. Like if you have all this stuff set up on the front end of your expectations and what this all looks like, it will take care of a lot of problems. Not every problem, and we'll get to that. So the third thing is that choice about when they write during that time, because you want them to stay on task, right? If everybody is writing to the same exact prompt, it can be a little cumbersome and overdone. However, I will say, like I said, if you flip things around every once in a while, sometimes just let's throw this out here. I would find a prompt that was so cool that I would say, we're all going to do this one today and see what kind of variations we come up with. So we could do that, but every once in a while, don't do that every single time, because they need to be able to focus on what it is they want to do. And when I'm going to do a deep dive into choice, because there are 3 paths they choose from, and I want to dive into each one of those and tell you where I came up with these ideas and why they're important to this whole writing program. So when I do the lesson, so the teacher has their 7-minute lesson, and then the students can practice that skill in their writing. Now, this is a little pro idea here, and some of you might not feel comfortable doing this quite yet, but once you get super confident with this, you're like a relaxed driver, right? You're just like, hey, we can do what we want. You're so in control of your class, and your kids are just humming along. You can do this move. But I tell them, you can practice on the skill that I just taught you, or you can pick a different skill that you want to practice on. So they're not all doing the same skill, but they do have to pick one. And then at the end, they have to quickly highlight the example of that skill. So I kind of let it go a little loosey-goosey with that one. So the benefit of letting go a little in workshop is that your students will actually write more. They're going to revise and write without groaning. They're going to develop their own voice. And I had one teacher tell me that her students are begging for writing time. I've actually had many, many, many teachers tell me that their kids are now begging for writing time, which is super cool. And someone told me that the kids are now running the workshop like it's a newsroom. I love that. But to make sure your class is humming along like a newsroom, let me get specific into classroom management for just that writer's workshop block. And then we're going to look at the bigger picture. We'll pull back a little bit. So the secret weapon really for managing your workshop is in those student leader roles that I talked about, because they sit up at the front. They do writing just along with everybody, but they're leading the warm-ups. They'll call on volunteers. Did anyone hit a goal today? Does anyone want to share their whatever? The tone has now shifted. And then when there is a student, you know, when you have kids who are like, I don't know what to write about. I don't know what to do. What's the this? What's the that? And they come to you and you're like inundated with all these little like, I don't know what that sound was, but I've never had a student actually make that sound. So then I tell them, go check in with the captain. So the captain's up there and they know what dare we've pulled for the day. They know what digital spinner has been pulled. And the student is telling the other student, hey, you could do this or this. If you don't want to do that, then do path 2, the letter writing. You could write it to me, whatever. Like, so the kids are talking to each other. And what I have found is that students don't like really going to other students and admitting that they don't want to do something or don't know how to do something. So if the case is that they're just trying to be a little, lazy, just come up with a word, just telling them that they need to go talk to the captain about it is super helpful. And you're on your side and you are writing. And if you have some other kids who are a little, they got a little squirreliness in them, have your table so that they kind of join you during that writing time. It's really calming on the system. Imagine you have a table to the side or in the back. You are there. You have 3 kids, 4 kids at the most, right? And you're just saying, okay, you guys, are y'all ready? What did you choose for your path and your skill? And you're just whispering, okay, are you guys good? We're going. And then, so the class is already doing their part, but these kids who tend to be a little drifty, they're working with you. And there is a lot of momentum that happens when they see you writing authentically, like you want to write something really fun. It catches on. It's contagious. So you've got your leaders answering questions. They can even walk around and answer questions. If there is some sounds going on, they could say, hey guys, we're losing time. We only have 4 minutes left, everyone. And a student is saying that, right? If they say something that's not okay, that's where we're going to like, shut up. That's not cool. I hate that. But they know that about me, and that's going to go to the bigger idea of how to manage a full classroom. Okay, but you might be saying, yeah, but that still is not going to work. So we did the proactive stuff. You have a table of kids who might need a little settling down with their system there, but maybe you still have 1 or 2 or whatever who are just being, and they won't write, and they're not doing the stuff they need to do. So honestly, here's what I do. I have a stack of very boring worksheets that are sentence combining practices. So it's the same thing that we do in our warm-up, that I tell them how important it is to be able to combine sentences into compound or complex sentences, and they have to be punctuated perfectly, right? They do one of those during that. It's good practice. So I tell, if they cannot handle workshop, you will still write, you'll do this. And I had to do that one time with one student who got the worksheet, and I just quietly do. I didn't make a big deal out of it. I was like, clearly this workshop's not working for you. I want you to complete this before you head out the door for the next period today. So having a stack of writing that they still have to do, but it's not workshop writing. And so think of it as you're being a protector. You're protecting the writing time of all of these other students who really need this and who really love this. And so having to work with 1 or 2 kids and they get that consequence, I don't feel bad about it. I don't yell at them or anything. I just know that I need to protect this environment for everyone in here so that they can do what they need to do. Now let's pull back a little bit and let's talk about just getting the attention of the class. I'm going to do a bigger classroom management talk here. So you may have heard like, oh, just count to 5. And you just say, I want everyone's attention in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the expectation is that by the time you get to 1, the class is quieted. I almost laughed into the microphone there. Sorry, I don't want to hurt your ears. That worked one time when I was teaching a small private school here in California. And that kind of worked for those kids. And then what happens though when that doesn't work? You count down to 1 and they don't get quiet at 1. Do you do it again? What's the deal? A couple of things I want you to keep in mind. Number 1 is that procedures is huge, and you need to get that all set up and figured out at the beginning. You need to practice the procedures. It needs to feel cheesy. That's okay. So that you always say, do it right or do it twice. So if they walk in noisily and we say, oh, bummer, we aren't doing what we were supposed to do when we walk in. That was just way too loud. We're going to go outside and we're going to do it again. Again, no yelling, no freaking out, just bummer. Oh, y'all, let's do it again. And then sometimes if you have to do it 3 times, that's the way it goes. So they know do it right or do it twice is the rule. Now, at another school I went to, they did the response and call and response, and they did the clap 1, clap twice. So if you can hear my voice, clap once, clap twice, and by that second clap, everyone is quiet. Every once in a while, they had to go to 3 claps, and then you'd see this like shocked look on the teacher's face. That worked for the little 6th graders at the middle school. So that kind of worked. Now, what if that doesn't work? I'm going to tell you a quick story of something that happened to me. There was a time when I was teaching in a Title I middle school, Guadalupe, and it was definitely the counting down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 never worked. Like they couldn't even hear 1. It was just they were so loud and chaotic. I was like, whoa! Like all of these other things that I've tried in the past are not working. I cannot get them to settle down. And they weren't my hardest class. Like actually the hardest class I ever had was a 7th grade class outside of Albuquerque, which was like, oh my gosh, breaking up fights, and they'd break into my desk and steal my purse. And it was, oh, wow, that was a tough year. Anyway, this group was just very loud and very energized. So I find this wasn't working. I finally went to the teacher's lounge and I said, how do you all get your kids to be quiet? And they laughed and they said, here's what you're going to do. It's so cute. You can count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Do the normal thing that you do. And if they don't get quiet by 1, you're just simply going to put your hands in your pocket and you're going to quietly count back up. So if they're not quiet on 1, I then put my hands in my pocket. I'm super chill. I just start going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what these are is how many seconds they are going to lose to either if it's like going out to recess or if they're changing classes. That's how much they would lose. You would keep in your mind, you don't really want it to be longer than 60 seconds ever, because that would be a problem. But so they don't know that though. And so you start counting back up quietly. And then once they get quiet, you put that number up on the board. They're able to get that number back down lower as they earn stuff back. And so when I started doing this, here's the funniest part, is I heard one of them lean over to another one and she said, oh no, they told her about the counting thing. They knew it. They knew that this is like the trick that the teachers use. So you count back up, and then however many seconds are on the board, when the bell rings or whatever, they have to get to complete and utter silence. And then I start the timer, and that's how much time they owe me. Now that might feel a little bit, I don't know. I didn't care. It worked. And then we also built in a system for them to earn some chill out time. So every Friday I had a chill Friday, and they got to earn the number of minutes as a class. They had to do things as a class. So we would put up goals of what we would like. Like I want everybody to get in the classroom and seated within, 90 seconds. And someone would time it, the whole thing, and we would graph it. We would check it. We'd be like, yay, we did it. And so I would put, at one point I did just tallies on the board. And then I also switched over to marbles in a jar. So you can do whatever you want. But the tallies on the board are minutes, not seconds, but they're minutes that you earn toward Chill Friday. And they have to earn these as a group, so they'll be able to get it up to, typically even just 10 minutes Chill Friday, but sometimes we got 30 minutes on Chill Friday because they were amazing. And when we had Chill Friday, here's the key to that too, is we didn't really have like you can just sit and do and like get in trouble. We had hands-on things, like we had Uno cards, we had battleship games, we had plastic cups that they would stack up into, they would make pyramids out of them. They had like a bead making section. We had ribbons where they just braided them and they made bracelets. Like it was all very tactile. And then one kid could pick the playlist for that week. So we would listen to the music while we're all just kind of doing like chill stuff. And now all of this is as a group, right? So they lose time at recess or their passing period because the group needs to be quiet. And again, they're not allowed to say shut up. I automatically added like 5 more on there if anyone said the word shut up. You could just we talk about this as a procedure too. Like kindly just tap your neighbor. Shh, quiet, listen to her. Something. And if I noticed that they were getting the attention of their neighbors in a really positive and productive way, I would add more time back to them. So they got to, I really, really wanted to reinforce all the good behaviors and the communication skills between them that would give them more classroom, minutes and seconds. So at the same time, this also applies to individual things. Like if you need to give a consequence to one particular kid, if the whole class owes me 45 seconds of their recess time, but you have one particular kid might owe you a little bit more time, then they need to stay at the end. So the rest of the class goes, that kid stays, and you can use your regular, restorative justice techniques, whatever your school uses there. Same thing on Chill Friday. If I had some kids who did no work or we had big behavior problems or whatever, I have a spot back here and you're going to do get your work done. So they had to get all their assignments done on Chill Friday. So to recap that, basically, instead of constantly correcting, you're rewarding for the behavior you want to see, the behavior you don't want. You're not emotional. You're just saying, well, that's a bummer. Here's my procedure and you didn't do it. So here we go. And so they don't ruffle you. They're not going to get you all kerfuffled here. They can earn things as a group. So think of, like all of your classroom management and your workshop management as we are a team. We are building a classroom culture here. I'm not just managing. I'm not standing outside like I'm a bouncer at a nightclub, just saying you can do this, you can do that. We're every part of this classroom is team culture. So when you're setting goals for writing, you can make that visual. You could post a tracker, and it's not grades. You're just tracking, like, did I hit my writing goal? You could post that. You could make, the timing of, did they get quiet in the 90 seconds? Like whatever your goals are, I would set maybe 3 classroom management goals that your top 3 of what you want them to do, and make it a visible tracker of when they hit it. Final thought in here that I want to make sure I say before I forget. As you're doing your proactive setup of your procedures within your workshop, make sure that you take a little bit of time at the beginning of the year and train that first set of leaders, because everybody else will watch what they do and they'll learn it just from that. But the first time you do it, train them. So have them come in during lunch or at a time when you can, please, and show them the scripts and show them, I want it to look like this. Now let's practice it. I'm going to be a kid outside. I want you all to walk in, get it set up. I'm going to walk in like a kid and like saunter in and like fall on your desk, and have them we'll do a run through first before, because they're so nervous. They've never done this. But just make sure you keep it simple, repeat that routine, and always focus on keeping the ownership as much as you can on the students within that workshop, so that it doesn't create chaos, but it it creates buy-in. And when you have buy-in, as when they're all buying in, then you're really, really starting to create a classroom culture. So thanks for listening, and I will see you in the next one. Be sure to follow Beyond the Paragraph wherever you get your podcast and share this with a teacher bestie. They will love you for it, and so will I. To go deeper and learn more about the structured writing method, go to structuredwritingteacher.com.